Many people have heard the stories of Edgar Allan Poe, twisted tales of horror and death, chilling stories of premature burial, and tragic poems of lovers torn apart. But who was the real Edgar Allan Poe? A lover? A husband? A genius? Or maybe even a madman? In this exclusive interview, we look into the life of Edgar Allan Poe and how the symbols in his poetry tie into some of the major events in his life.
Mr. Poe, we would like to thank you for coming out to talk to us today.
It really is my pleasure, Mr. Donaldson, even though it is quite a long drive from Baltimore.
Well, we appreciate you being here today. Would you like to get started?
That sounds magnificent. Where should we begin?
Let's start with what inspires you. What has impacted your writing the most?
In a word, death. Many of the people that I grew closest to were taken away from me. I believe that changed my writing dramatically. I've also noticed that I use many symbols to allude to death in my writing.
What are some examples of symbols to death in your poetry, Mr. Poe?
Well, in one of my favorite poems, A Dream Within a Dream, I actually use the ocean as a symbol to death.
I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?
So the C stands for death.
That's right. The grains of sand symbolize how fragile life really is, and how it is impossible to keep one's grip on the slipping sand. It shows how inevitable death is. No one can escape it.
Are there symbols in all of your poems?
In my poems? Yes. It's different than writing a short story. In a short story, everything is up front. In a poem, you can be more subtle, more complex. It allows for your piece to be deeper.
Ah, broken the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the bell toll, a saintly soul floats on the Stygian river. And Guy hast thou no tear? Weep now or nevermore. See, on yon drear and rigid bier, low lies thy love Lenore. Come, let the burial rite be read, the funeral song be sung, an anthem for the queenliest dead that ever died so young. A dirge for her, the doubly dead, in that she died so young. You see, the golden bowl is life. Once it's broken, there's no chance for repairing it.
The golden bowl? That's an interesting choice. What kinds of other ideas do you use?
All kinds, Mr. Donaldson. The symbol for death in my favorite poem, The Raven, is a freaking bird. If you can make a poem around that, your other options are basically endless.
Interesting.
It was many and many year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. She was a child and I was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than a love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me.
That was quite a touching poem, Mr. Poe. I noticed you mentioned the sea again.
Thank you. And yes, I did. To me, the ocean is a place of great mystery. It always seemed to make a good setting if you wanted to get a darker, more somber tone.
I've noticed that most of your poems stay in that somber tone.
That is quite true. This reminds me of another poem of mine, The Haunted Palace. It begins as a very happy piece, describing a magnificent palace. However, in the last two stanzas, the palace is taken over by hooded evil things.
So these evil things represent death in the poem.
You catch on quickly, Mr. Donaldson. Do you mind if we take a quick break before we continue?
Of course not. Let's be back here in 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Where is he at? Well, that's just great. As we're done here,
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!